What's up, guys? We're back with another video. It's Wednesday morning. We're on our way to work. And this Saturday, coming up, I'm once again telling you, Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut. It's going to be a big show. 10 to 6, open hours, 9 to 10 VIP. So come see me there. Then Wicked Card Show. That's C8 HD COD Show in Boston on November 9th, and then Pokemon Outlet Black Friday weekend. That's going to be a banger too. Today, we're going to talk about less general economic stuff and more general Pokemon market stuff. And just talk about, everybody is debating, and it's been happening for maybe a year now. Are we in a bubble? Is this the bubble? Are we about to crash? Blah, blah, blah. That's been a hot topic of discussion ever since, I guess, Prismatic maybe. So start of this year, January. And in my opinion, it is not a bubble. And it is not about to crash. And I was gonna get into some of those reasons with you. So, what's a bubble? Is I guess the first question we should start with. Well, typically people, when they're talking about a bubble, is when there's a bunch of either money being poured into a market artificially and inflating prices. And it's kind of like, if you're familiar with crypto at all, where there'll be these meme coins that pop up from time to time, and everybody will be talking about them for 2 to 3 days, and the price will pump, and then all the early buyers will sell at the pumped price and do what's known as a rug pull. And, they take their profits off the table, and everybody that bought at the pump price gets caught holding the bag. I don't think that's what's happening right now. I guess the other way that bubbles happen, especially with like collectibles, and it's happened in Pokemon before, is when there's like artificial demand pumped into the market. And that's typically, in modern day and age, that's typically like a social media phenomenon. Like, I would say like the 2020 Logan Paul stuff was sort of like an example of that, where it's like, oh, Logan Paul bought this $250,000 Charizard or whatever, and people just got into it because of a bunch of factors. Sitting around during lockdowns with nothing to do but watch social media and sort of feed into the hype. The sort of like live auction stuff was just starting to take off then, which is a great way to kill time and spend a bunch of money if you're stuck in the house. And stimmy checks helped. That gave people what they thought was extra money that they could just throw at stuff, assuming they weren't like actually hurting on bills and stuff like that. So that's another area where like I think you could legitimately consider that a bubble, where it's kind of like artificial demand got pumped into the market. What we have right now, though, I would not consider a bubble. I think the hype is real, and that's largely due to one, like the Pokemon company is just pumping out awesome sets. Like, the worst set of this past year, I guess, is Journey Together, and in my opinion, it's pretty good. It's a pretty like slept on set, actually. There's cool arts, there's great full arts, the illustration rares like the Articuno, the Wailord. There's just sweet cards in it. It's it's as cheap as pretty much any of the other Scarlet and Violet sets, and I don't think it's the worst one. So This past year, that's been the worst set. Other than that, what have we got? Prismatic, most hyped set like ever off the rip, maybe one of them. I mean, that's really what started the whole like, oh, scalpers are ruining everything. Like, I know that was out there before, but it was really like, that's when it was like at its peak. And you know, Journey, I guess, but then there's Destined and Black and White. I would say those are similar level to Journey. I don't really know how those will play out long term, just because of how many illustration rares there are and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a weird set. And then like now we're right into the next block. We're in the mega set, and it's just like, hype is real, man. And if you've seen like the, you know, Phantasmal is going to be super hype. People are going to, I mean, the Charizard alone is going to, I mean, I don't know if you've seen what the Japanese like PSA 10s are selling for, but hype is real, man. So I don't think we're slowing down really anytime soon. And then sort of like even just the set name leaks that we've gotten for next year, leading up to the 30th anniversary. I just think the hype train is going to keep rolling down the tracks. None of us can do anything about it. And I just don't see the hype slowing down anytime soon from that perspective, from a pure collector's cards, what's going on with, you know, the new sets perspective. It just seems to me like, you know, the mega set, everybody's like, oh, this is the best base set of all time. Maybe. Phantasmal looks insane. The Charizard looks insane. We don't know what the Gengar is going to look like, but that's not going to die down. And then we're talking about, you know, a Ruby and Sapphire set next year. You know, they better give my boy Swampert some love, though. I'm telling you, I'm waiting on like a good Swampert, SIR or something like that. So if we could get a Mega Swampert, SIR, shiny pink Swampert, that would be fire. That's my prediction. I don't know if it'll happen or not. I'm just hoping for it. It's not even really a prediction. Anyway, with those types of things happening leading up to the 30th, hype train ain't rolling, ain't slowing down. I mean, and I would say that the other question is, well, are all these sort of like new additional ways that the market is buying and selling and trading, are these creating a bubble? And by those I mean like Whatnot, Drip, whatever live auction site, you know, you're into, rip and shippers, vending, card shows, are these creating a bubble in themselves by just, you know, and like the YouTube scene about like vendor POVs, all this stuff. But I don't think that's a bubble. I think that is, you know, Pokemon hobbyists are turning into vendors because they see that there's real value in the cards, and if you're savvy, you can like make some extra money, or you can at least like fund your collection, and like you get to, you know, I don't think card shows are by any means creating a bubble. I think they're making like the market much healthier and giving like average collectors fun experience. Like, I mean, you know, I've spent time on eBay and whatnot, plenty of time, lots of time, but it's not nearly the same experience as going to a card show and walking around and talking to vendors and talking to other collectors and, you know, being part of a community. I mean, there is community aspects. I think that's part of like why Rip and Chips do well, aside from the gambling aspect. But it's not the same as in person. In person is so much more fun and like more immersive, and you really get to like negotiate and wheel and deal, and it's much more like visceral. And so I think card shows in general, and like the popularity of card shows in exploding, is just like pure upside for everyone: collectors, vendors, content creators. Everybody kind of wins because of card shows. And I think that train is gonna continue to roll also. I don't see them slowing down. There's so many new shows in the surrounding area of me. I'm in Western Mass, so the New England area in general, I can get almost anywhere in New England inside of 3 hours. So that general area, there's just so many card shows. There's multiples every week, every weekend. And will all of those card shows be successful? Will all of them make it? No, definitely not. One of the card shows that I had been going to for a bit, and vending at, I mean, I don't know exactly what the issue is. I think that the problem is that they're just getting out competed by bigger draws, and that's a tough place to be in the market. But that's how markets market is, more successful ventures, in this case card shows, the bigger ones, the ones that are making more money, the ones that are attracting more hype and getting more advertising and getting sponsors and having more tables and more vendor space, and so they're pulling more customers. Those ones are just going to outcompete the smaller ones, and that's how things work, and nothing wrong with that. That's good. It weeds out the weaker competition and consolidates the market. And I think there's going to be lots of action with that in the next few years, where it's like, which card shows survive, which ones thrive, which ones don't survive. That's all up in the air. And there's only like a couple of really big players, and truthfully, like the national shows, there's only like two. It's like Card Party, which is only a couple of events and a couple locations a year, and then the big one being Collecticon, which as far as I know, is just like by far the biggest one right now. I know there's ones out on the West Coast that are huge too, Front Row and whatever, but like I'm on the East Coast, and I don't have the plans to travel to the West Coast for card shows anytime in the very immediate future, at least. So yeah, I think that market is going to be dynamic. It's going to be changing a lot over the next couple years, and I have no idea how that'll shake out. But I'll tell you right now that Lee, Mass, where the Pokemon outlet is not a big town. It's not even a city, and it does help that it's in between Springfield, Albany, Northampton, Worcester, Bennington, and Hartford. Like, it's kind of in the middle of all those things. It's right off the exit on the highway, and so traffic-wise, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of bigger metro areas that are within an hour-ish. So traveling to it, pretty easy. And then also from like a local perspective where I am, well, it's pretty much the only show that's not an hour or more away. So for local collectors, it's great. And for like traveling collectors or vendors who are, looking for something different or a different market to tap into, it's also great. So I think that one will be successful. I'm going to keep going to those and try to be one of the sort of mainstay vendors at that show. It's just going to be monthly from now on, I hope. So that's my one bet. All the other ones, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I don't think Collecticon's going anywhere, but either way, I just think the card show train is just getting rolling. It's like there could be, you know, if there's significant drawback in like interest in Pokemon at some point, who knows how that ends up shaking out? I have no clue. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Sort of some of the other stuff that I think is less stable and less perhaps healthy for the market, although I don't know, it's kind of interesting, is like the online auction stuff, the rip and ship stuff. It's really hype and popular right now, but you know, if there are drawbacks in interest or drawbacks in the market, I could see those being most affected, because there's not really that same backbone of like community and interaction. There still is some, but just not to the same level as in-person card shows. And I think you have like much less sort of like casual collectors there, and a lot more like degen gamblers and people that are really like looking for deals and savvy and knowing what they're bidding on, and or they like own a shop, and this is one of the ways that they source their inventory and product from. So I'm not really sure about that, but I will say that as long as those are running, which I think they will continue to run, especially the ones that are super successful, you know, that's just adding to demand, and especially demand for sealed product. And the Pokemon company just can't print to demand right now. There's like no way, you know, they can't even print to demand for the current set or the last two sets. So how are they going to print to demand and reprint stuff from Scarlet and Violet? Like, I don't really see that happening. And you know, with box openings and rip and ships significantly impacting the amount of sealed product available for like retail consumption, I just don't think that we're gonna get caught up anytime soon. While the hype is still high, I don't see how they catch up with demand as far as printing goes of sealed product. So long story short, do I think it's a bubble? No. I think the hype is real. I think there's other contributing factors like TCG or Pokemon Pocket, I think is what the app's called. Like, that's got some interest. And I guess one of the other things that I don't hear people talk about too much, but I think really significantly is contributing to demand and also like the long-term stability of the market, which is Pokemon now is like 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, in previous eras, Pokemon was pretty much like a millennial phenomenon. And now, especially on this bull run and with the card show, you know, takeover of the Pokemon landscape here, I'm noticing tons of people that are, you know, 30 to 45 or whatever, and they were into Pokemon as a kid, and now they have kids, and not only are they into Pokemon, but also their kids are into Pokemon. So I would say over the past few years, Pokemon has really transitioned into a multi-generational hobby, and that is sort of a new phenomenon for the space. I guess there's there's been some of that for sports cards in the past, so I don't want to say a completely new phenomenon in collectibles, but I would say this is like a different thing. Like, yeah, I was into sports cards when I was a kid, and you know, I would be into it. I'm not into it now, really, but I do see people at shows with their kids that are into sports. That totally happens, but Pokemon just right now, at least, is on like a different level of hype, and the multi-generational aspect is really, you're just like, you're just adding new people to your consumer base, new people to the space in general. That creates increased demand. Kids are more likely to want to like rip sealed product than keep it sealed, so that adds to demand for sealed product. Lowers the amount available of sealed product. And so I think that is another big factor that's really playing into this, because I just see it everywhere. I would say like half of the people that come up to my table at shows are parents with kids, and 90% of them, both people are interested in the hobby. It's not one or the other. It's like both. And so I think that is a really fascinating part of the market to pay attention to. And I think long term, that will contribute to a really healthy, steady growth. Of course, there will be drawbacks, in interest, in demand, in hype. All those things will happen. I don't think the hype train can roll on this fast forever, but I do think long term, it becoming a multi-generational hobby is going to really contribute to a healthy, growing, thriving market. And I think the other thing is the first generation of Pokemon fans didn't immediately view it as a money-making enterprise or a investment strategy. And I think a lot of these kids, literal like kids, like 8 to 13 or whatever, I don't know, that sort of demographic, though, they're being raised into the hobby looking at it as a money-making opportunity, an investment strategy. And I see it all the time where parents are walking their kids through that sort of thinking, and that sort of thinking being like taught very early to your next wave of collectors and investors and vendors and all of that. That's going to be a game changer, because none of us had that when we were young. None of us. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I didn't learn about any sort of personal finance, or aside from very surface level stuff. I don't really think anybody in our generation, for the most part, of course there's exceptions, but in general, I really don't think almost any of us were brought up with good personal finance advice in our lives. And to see sort of that developing in this market, and parents showing their kids that at really young ages, not too young though, I think they're totally right to be doing it. I just think that's a really interesting turn of events, and it's really hard to predict what that means long term, but I would say it's super bullish for the hobby and collectibles in general, and the destroying of the myth that is the Pokemon bubble. I don't think this is a bubble. I think this is a very hype market with a lot of organic demand from a lot of different factors of input, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So it's a pretty long video. I got rolling there for a bit, but you know, I just say I'm very bullish on the future. I know there will be drawbacks, and you should plan for the drawbacks. Have some cash set aside. I know that's contradictory to some of the things I've said before. You should have some cash ready to buy, though. You know, if there are corrections, cash will be your friend when there are corrections. But I don't think the corrections are coming soon. So, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. This was a long video. Once again, Foxwoods, October 25th. Gonna be a banger. We're really excited for the show. This is gonna be by far the biggest show I've been a vendor at, and hopefully there will be many more in the not too distant future. So hope to see some of you guys there. If not, Wicked Cod Show in Boston, November 9th, and Black Friday weekend back at the Pokemon Outlet, Lee, Mass. And hope to see you guys at some of the shows soon. All right, later.